The plant paradox, the hidden dangers in healthy foods that cause disease and weight gain, by Dr. Stephen R. Gundry. Picture this, a man in his late 40s, absolutely crushing it in his career. He's a world-renowned heart surgeon, the kind of guy other surgeons look up to. He runs 30 miles every week, hits the gym religiously, and follows what everyone swears is the perfect, healthy, low-fat diet. From the outside looking in, this guy has it all figured out. But here's where it gets interesting. Behind the scenes, his body is staging a full-on rebellion. He's carrying an extra 70 pounds. His blood pressure is through the roof. Arthritis is making every movement painful. Migraines are a regular visitor. His cholesterol numbers? Not pretty. He's checking every box on the healthy living checklist, yet somehow his body missed the memo. This man was Dr. Stephen R. Gundry himself, and his personal health crisis became the key that unlocked a secret that might flip everything you think you know about food completely upside down. But here's the twist. His transformation didn't begin in some fancy research laboratory. It started with a patient everyone simply called Big Ed. Big Ed was also in his late 40s, dealing with coronary artery disease so aggressive it was literally suffocating his heart. His arteries were packed with plaque like rush-hour traffic on a Friday afternoon. He'd already gone under the knife for bypass surgery, but the disease came roaring back with a vengeance. He made the rounds to every specialist he could find, and they all gave him the same devastating news. There's nothing more we can do. You're inoperable. Go home and get your affairs in order. But Big Ed wasn't the type to just roll over. For 6 months, he threw himself into a radical diet experiment, combining specific foods with a stack of supplements he'd discovered through his own research online. When he walked back into Dr. Gundry's office, something absolutely mind-blowing had happened. Sure, Big Ed had dropped 45 pounds, which was impressive, but that wasn't even the real story. Dr. Gundry ran his diagnostic tests, pulled up the images of Big Ed's heart, and literally couldn't process what he was seeing. A massive chunk of the plaque that had been choking his arteries had simply disappeared, vanished. This was supposed to be impossible. In all of Dr. Gundry's years as one of the world's top heart surgeons, he had never witnessed anything remotely like this. This single moment forced him to confront a question that would consume the rest of his career. How on earth could this happen? He actually walked away from his prestigious position as head of cardiothoracic surgery to chase down the answer. What you're about to discover is the result of that obsessive quest. It's a story that unfolds in Dr. Gundry's groundbreaking book, The Plant Paradox. This isn't your typical eat this, not that diet book. It's a complete reimagining of how we think about food, built around one revolutionary, somewhat unsettling idea. Some of the so-called healthiest foods we're told to eat might actually be the hidden culprits behind our weight gain and chronic diseases. By the time we're done here, you'll understand the secret biological war being waged inside your body every single day. You'll discover the hidden saboteurs lurking in your salad bowl and hiding on your dinner plate. And most importantly, you'll learn the surprisingly simple steps you can take to broker a peace treaty, heal your body from the inside out, and tap into a level of health and energy you might have thought was gone for good. Let's kick things off with an idea that might sound like it belongs in a science fiction novel. What if I told you that for millions of years there's been a silent, relentless war happening on our planet? We're not talking about nations battling for territory or armies clashing on battlefields. This is a war between two kingdoms, the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. And you, whether you realize it or not, are right there on the front lines every single day. When we think about plants, we picture these peaceful, life-giving things. They feed us, pump out oxygen, they're basically our botanical buddies. But here's where Dr. Gundry introduces the paradox. From a plant's point of view, we're actually the threat. Just like any living organism, a plant's #1 priority is survival and reproduction. It definitely doesn't want to become your lunch. Here's the problem, though. An animal can sprint away, take flight, or put up a fight. A plant? It's literally stuck in the ground. So how does it defend itself? It becomes an absolute master of chemical warfare. Over hundreds of millions of years, plants have developed this incredible arsenal of toxins specifically designed to mess with their predators, particularly insects. And one of their most sophisticated biological weapons is a special type of protein called a lectin. Think of lectins as tiny, microscopic, heat-seeking missiles. Their mission is simple: seek out and latch onto sugar molecules on the cells of whatever's trying to eat the plant. Once they lock on, they unleash chaos. They scramble cell-to-cell communication, triggering inflammation. They can paralyze an insect. In extreme cases, they can be downright deadly. Gluten, which you've probably heard plenty about, is actually just one famous example out of thousands of different lectins out there. Now you're probably thinking, hold on, I'm not a bug, a bowl of kale isn't going to take me down. And you're absolutely right. Because we're so much bigger than an insect, the effects of these plant toxins aren't immediate or dramatic. They're subtle, they're chronic, and they accumulate over years and years, quietly wreaking havoc on our systems. This is what Dr. Gundry calls the plant paradox. The very foods we've been convinced are essential pillars of health might actually be secret sources of suffering. So how do these lectins, these plant defense proteins, actually cause harm? It all comes down to an epic battle for control of your gut. Imagine your digestive tract, that long tube running from your mouth all the way down. Here's something wild. It's not technically inside your body. It's more like a hollow tunnel passing straight through you. The food sitting in that tube is still technically part of the outside world. The only thing standing between that external environment and your pristine bloodstream and internal organs is a wall. And this wall is shockingly, almost ridiculously thin. We're talking just one single cell thick. Let that sink in for a second. A barrier that's only one cell thick, yet somehow covers the surface area of an entire tennis court, is all that stands between you and everything you swallow. These cells lock together using something called tight junctions, forming what should be a strong, impenetrable fortress. Its job description is simple. Let the good stuff, those tiny digested nutrients, pass through into your bloodstream, while keeping the bad stuff, like undigested food particles, hostile bacteria, and lectins, firmly on the outside. But lectins are basically expert demolition crews. Their primary objective is to breach this wall. One of the most powerful lectins out there, found in wheat, goes by the name wheat germ agglutinin, or WGA for short. WGA can basically trick the cells lining your gut wall into opening up those tight junctions. This creates tiny gaps in your fortress wall. This condition is what a lot of people now refer to as leaky gut. Once those gates swing open, all hell breaks loose. Lectins, fragments of bacteria, chunks of undigested food, they all come pouring directly into your bloodstream, where they absolutely should not be. When your immune system spots these foreign invaders, it does exactly what it's programmed to do. It hits the panic button and launches an all-out attack. This attack generates inflammation. And we're not just talking about inflammation in your gut. This is system-wide. Your joints might start throbbing. Your skin might erupt in rashes or acne. You might walk around with constant fatigue or that frustrating brain fog. This is your body locked in a civil war, constantly fighting enemies that were never supposed to cross the border in the first place. But wait, lectins have another trick that's even more devious. It's a strategy called molecular mimicry. It's basically a case of mistaken identity playing out at the microscopic level. Plants are incredibly clever. They've engineered their lectin proteins to look almost identical to some of your own body's proteins. For instance, a particular lectin might closely resemble the protein structure on your thyroid gland, or the lining of your joints, or the protective coating around your nerves. So when your immune system builds an army to hunt down and destroy that invading lectin, it gets confused. It spots the proteins on your thyroid and thinks, wait, that looks just like the enemy we're hunting. and it starts launching friendly fire on your own body. This is the underlying mechanism behind autoimmune diseases. Whether we're talking about rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, lupus, or multiple sclerosis, Dr. Gundry argues that often your body isn't malfunctioning randomly. It's being systematically tricked by these masterful plant imposters. And there's yet a third way lectins hijack your entire system. They mess with your hormones. Hormones are like chemical messengers delivering instructions to your cells. They dock onto specific receptors on a cell's surface to deliver their message. For example, the hormone insulin tells your cells to open up and absorb sugar for energy. But some lectins, like that WGA from wheat we mentioned, look so eerily similar to insulin that they can actually fit into the insulin receptor. But here's the catch. Unlike real insulin, which delivers its message and then moves on, lectins just stick there, blocking the receptor indefinitely. What's the result of this blockage? When WGA clogs up the insulin receptors on your muscle cells, sugar can't get in to fuel your muscles. Your muscles basically starve. So where does all that sugar end up? It gets shuttled straight into your fat cells for storage. Even worse, when WGA blocks the insulin receptors on your fat cells, it's like jamming the door wide open. It sends them a continuous, non-stop signal to just keep storing fat around the clock. And when these receptors get blocked on your brain cells, your brain is suddenly starving for energy. A starving brain does what any desperate organ would do. It sends out powerful distress signals screaming, "I'm starving here! Eat more now!" This creates a vicious cycle of intense cravings and relentless weight gain, all orchestrated by these microscopic plant proteins. You wind up with less muscle mass, a chronically starving brain, and significantly more body fat. From the plant's perspective, it's actually a brilliant survival strategy. A weakened, overweight predator is much less of a threat. So here's the obvious question. If plants and their lectins have been around for millions of years, why are we only seeing this massive explosion of obesity, autoimmune diseases, and chronic inflammation in roughly the last 50 years? What fundamentally changed? This is where the story takes a genuinely fascinating turn. Dr. Gundry identifies 4 major historical turning points that completely rewrote the rules in this ancient war. The first major disruption was the agricultural revolution, roughly 10,000 years ago. For millions of years before that, our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. Their diet consisted mainly of leafy greens, root vegetables, seasonal fruits, and whatever animals they could successfully hunt. They almost never ate grains or legumes, like beans and lentils. With the advent of agriculture, humans suddenly introduced an absolutely massive load of brand new lectins into their daily diet. Our bodies, along with the trillions of friendly bacteria living in our guts, our so-called gut buddies, had zero evolutionary experience with these new plant proteins. We simply hadn't had the millions of years necessary to develop proper defenses against them. Archaeological evidence reveals that after the agricultural revolution, humans actually became shorter on average, their brain size decreased, and for the first time in human history, their skeletons started showing clear signs of arthritis. Grains and beans enabled us to build complex civilizations, but there was definitely a hidden health cost. The second major disruption happened roughly 2,000 years ago. A spontaneous genetic mutation occurred in cows in northern Europe. This mutation caused them to produce a different type of protein in their milk, called casein A1. The original protein was casein A2. When we digest casein A1, it breaks down into a lectin-like protein that can actually trigger an immune attack directly on the insulin-producing cells of the pancreas. Dr. Gundry suggests this is a primary underlying cause of type 1 diabetes. Most cows in the United States today are Holsteins, which produce this casein A1 milk. However, goats, sheep, and certain southern European cow breeds still produce the safer casein A2 milk. The third disruption, and perhaps the biggest game changer, happened just 500 years ago with the European discovery of the Americas. When explorers sailed back to Europe, Asia, and Africa, they brought with them a whole treasure trove of New World plants. Suddenly, the rest of the world was bombarded with foods, and their associated lectins, that they had never encountered in their entire evolutionary history. What foods are we talking about? The entire nightshade family: tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and peppers. The bean family, which includes peanuts and cashews, grains like corn, pseudograins like quinoa, and the entire squash family, including zucchini and pumpkins. Roughly half of the foods that modern nutritionists tell us are absolute cornerstones of a healthy diet are actually brand new additions to the human menu. 500 years, when you think about it in evolutionary terms, is like the blink of an eye. Our bodies and our gut microbiome are still completely unprepared for this onslaught of foreign lectins. And that brings us to the fourth and final disruption, which has all happened within just the last 50 years. This is the perfect storm scenario. We've witnessed the explosive rise of heavily processed foods, which are absolutely loaded with lectin-heavy ingredients like corn, wheat, and soy. We've introduced genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, which are often specifically engineered to produce even more lectins to make them naturally pest-resistant. And on top of all that, we've unleashed what Dr. Gundry calls the 7 deadly disruptors. These are modern inventions that have systematically dismantled our body's natural defenses, leaving our gut walls vulnerable and our immune systems in a perpetual state of confusion and chaos. What exactly are these 7 disruptors? The first culprit is broad-spectrum antibiotics. These drugs are absolutely miracle lifesavers when we truly need them, but they act like detonating a nuclear bomb inside your gut. They wipe out the bad bacteria causing your infection, but they also completely obliterate the good bacteria, those friendly gut buddies that form your first line of defense against lectins. It can take up to 2 full years for your gut ecosystem to fully recover from just a single course of antibiotics. And here's the kicker. It's not just prescription antibiotics. We get constant low-dose exposure from eating conventionally raised meat and poultry because farmers routinely use antibiotics to fatten up their livestock faster. The second disruptor is NSAIDs, which stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. These are those common over-the-counter painkillers sitting in basically every medicine cabinet: ibuprofen, naproxen, and even good old aspirin. We pop them for everyday aches and pains, many of which are actually caused by lectin-induced inflammation in the first place. But here's the cruel irony. These drugs are scientifically proven to literally blow holes in the protective mucosal barrier lining your intestines. They directly damage your gut wall, making it exponentially easier for lectins to breach the barrier. It's like trying to put out a raging fire by dousing it with gasoline. The third disruptor is stomach acid-blocking medications. Drugs like Prilosec, Nexium, and other proton pump inhibitors are some of the most widely prescribed and over-the-counter medications in the entire world. But here's the thing. Stomach acid isn't your enemy at all. It's actually a crucial component of your defense system. It kills harmful bacteria and helps break down proteins, including those problematic lectins. When you chemically suppress your stomach acid production, you're essentially rolling out a red carpet welcome mat for bad bacteria to flourish and allowing more undigested lectins to travel further down into your gut, where they can inflict maximum damage. The fourth disruptor is artificial sweeteners. Products like Splenda, Equal, and aspartame are downright toxic to our beneficial gut bacteria. One shocking study demonstrated that a single packet of Splenda can wipe out up to 50% of your gut flora, but they also play mind games with your brain. When your taste buds detect something sweet, your brain anticipates an incoming delivery of calories. When those expected calories never materialize, your brain feels cheated and betrayed, sending out powerful emergency signals, demanding you go find some real sugar immediately, which leads to intense, almost irresistible cravings. The fifth group of disruptors are endocrine disruptors. These are synthetic chemicals lurking absolutely everywhere in our modern environment, in plastic containers and bottles, in cosmetics and personal care products, in sunscreens, and in food preservatives. Many of these chemicals structurally mimic the hormone estrogen. Estrogen's main biological job is to signal the body to store fat, typically in preparation for pregnancy. When we're constantly bathed in these estrogen-mimicking chemicals, our bodies receive a continuous year-round signal to store fat, whether we're male or female, whether we're trying to conceive or not. The sixth disruptor is perhaps the most widespread and insidious of all: genetically modified foods and the herbicide Roundup. Roundup's active ingredient, glyphosate, was originally marketed as essentially harmless to humans because we don't possess the specific biological pathway that it targets in plants and bacteria. But guess who does have that exact pathway? Our gut bacteria. Roundup systematically decimates our gut buddies, particularly the specific strains that help us properly digest gluten. Dr. Gundry makes a compelling argument that the recent dramatic explosion in gluten sensitivity isn't actually because wheat itself has fundamentally changed, but because the Roundup being liberally sprayed on wheat crops is killing off the very microbes that evolved to protect us from it. And we're getting hit with a double dose. Not only is it sprayed directly on GMO crops designed to withstand it, but farmers have now started spraying it on non-GMO crops like wheat, oats, and barley right before harvest as a desiccant to dry them out faster. And the seventh and final disruptor is our constant exposure to blue light. For millions of years of human evolution, the blue wavelengths of light from the sun signaled to our bodies that it was daytime, a time for activity, alertness, and eating. The absence of blue light at night signaled it was time for rest, recovery, and cellular repair. But in our modern world, we're literally surrounded by blue light around the clock from our screens, smartphones, tablets, computers, televisions, even LED lighting. This constant blue light exposure tricks our bodies into thinking it's perpetually daytime, always summer. It disrupts the production of melatonin, our sleep hormone, and keeps our hunger hormones and stress hormones artificially elevated. It's sending a continuous biological signal to our genes saying, keep eating, keep storing fat, because the famine of winter nighttime never actually arrives. When you step back and look at the big picture, you can clearly see why we're in such trouble health-wise. Our ancient, finely tuned defense systems, built and refined over literally millions of years of evolution, have been systematically dismantled and sabotaged in just a few short decades. Our gut walls are compromised and leaking, our gut microbiome has been carpet-bombed, and our hormonal signaling systems are in a complete state of disarray and confusion. This is the biological battlefield, where the modern war against our health is being waged every single day. So how do we call a ceasefire? How do we begin repairing this damage and restoring actual peace within our own bodies? This is where Dr. Gundry introduces his solution, the Plant Paradox Program. This isn't a diet in the traditional sense of the word. It's not about obsessively counting calories or severely restricting dietary fat. It's a fundamentally new approach to eating, designed to accomplish two primary goals. First, systematically remove the specific foods that are causing ongoing damage, and second, provide your body with the foods that actively help it heal itself, while simultaneously nourishing your beneficial gut bacteria. The program is strategically broken down into three distinct phases. Phase 1 is a 3-day intensive cleanse. It's designed as a quick metabolic kickstart to essentially starve out the harmful bacteria and begin immediately calming the chronic inflammation raging throughout your gut. During these 3 days, you eliminate all the major dietary offenders, all grains and pseudograins, all legumes, all forms of sugar, all fruit, all seeds, all dairy products, and all eggs. So what's left to eat? Actually, a surprisingly delicious menu built around leafy greens, specific approved vegetables, small portions of wild-caught fish or pastured chicken, and generous amounts of healthy fats, like avocado, olive oil, and coconut oil. It's definitely challenging, but it's only 3 days, and it sets the metabolic stage for the real deep healing to begin. Phase 2 is the main component of the program, Repair and Restore. This phase lasts for a minimum of 6 weeks, though many people choose to continue it much longer. This is where you really put the core principles into consistent daily practice. The foundation of this phase is learning and adhering to two straightforward lists, the yes please list and the just say no list. The just say no list contains all the major lectin-heavy foods that need to be avoided. This includes absolutely all grains and pseudo-grains, yes, even the supposedly healthy ones, like quinoa and buckwheat. It includes most legumes, beans, peas, lentils, all soy products, and peanuts. It includes the entire nightshade family, which means tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and all peppers. It includes the squash family. And it includes all out-of-season fruit and all forms of sugar and artificial sweeteners. It's admittedly a lot to give up, especially foods we've been repeatedly told our entire lives are essential foundations of a healthy diet. But Dr. Gundry's first and arguably most important rule is this: what you stop putting into your body has a far greater impact on your health than what you start adding. By removing these inflammatory, lectin-rich foods, you immediately stop the relentless daily assault on your gut wall. You finally give your exhausted body a genuine chance to stop fighting and start the healing process. So, what can you actually eat? The Yes Please list is surprisingly abundant and genuinely delicious. It's built on a solid foundation of leafy greens and a wide, colorful variety of other vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, and mushrooms. It includes plenty of healthy fats, which are absolutely critical for healing both your gut lining and your brain. Avocados, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, macadamia nuts, walnuts, and pecans are all dietary staples. For protein, the emphasis is primarily on wild-caught seafood and truly pastured poultry, but consumed in limited, reasonable amounts, no more than about 4 ounces per meal. The program encourages thinking of meat more as a condiment than the main event. For vegetarians and vegans, there are perfectly viable options like hemp tofu, certain varieties of mushroom-based proteins, and, here's the key, pressure-cooked legumes. That's right, there's actually a loophole for all you bean lovers out there. Dr. Gundry reveals that using a modern pressure cooker, like an Instant Pot, can actually destroy the vast majority of harmful lectins in most beans, legumes, and even certain grains like white rice, making them perfectly safe to eat. This is honestly a complete game changer for many people who thought they'd have to give up beans forever. And perhaps the most important category on the Yes Please list is a special group of foods called resistant starches. These include things like green, unripe bananas, green plantains, sweet potatoes, and taro root. They're technically starches, but your human digestive system can't actually break them down, so they don't spike your blood sugar. But your beneficial gut bacteria absolutely love feasting on them. They consume these resistant starches and, in return, produce incredibly powerful healing compounds called short-chain fatty acids that directly nourish and repair the cells lining your gut wall while providing clean, efficient energy for your entire body. This is precisely how you actively rebuild your inner microbial rainforest. The second foundational rule of the program is beautifully simple. Take care of your gut buddies, and they will take care of you. Phase 3 is where you finally reap the rewards. After completing at least 6 full weeks of Phase 2, once your gut has had sufficient time to properly heal, and your symptoms have noticeably improved or disappeared, you can cautiously begin testing your personal tolerance levels. You can try strategically reintroducing some of the previously forbidden foods from the no list, one single food at a time, in very small amounts, while carefully observing your body's response. You might discover that you can now tolerate peeled and de-seeded tomatoes without issues. You might find that zucchini no longer bothers you. You might be able to occasionally enjoy some pressure-cooked beans without any problems. Everyone's body and tolerance levels are genuinely different. This phase is all about discovering a sustainable, enjoyable, long-term lifestyle approach that works specifically for your unique biology. But Phase 3 is also about actively optimizing for longevity and maximum health span. This involves incorporating two more advanced strategies. First, progressively and gradually reducing your overall intake of animal protein. Extensive longevity research consistently shows a strong correlation between lower animal protein consumption and a significantly longer, healthier lifespan. Second, strategically incorporating intermittent fasting into your routine. This doesn't necessarily mean going entire days without eating anything. It can be as straightforward as restricting your eating window to a specific block of time each day. For example, only eating between noon and 8 p.m., giving yourself a 16-hour fasting window overnight. This extended fasting period gives your entire digestive system and your cellular repair machinery some much-needed rest and recovery time, allowing for deep cellular cleanup and regeneration. For those people facing serious, life-threatening health challenges like cancer, advanced diabetes, or neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, Dr. Gundry offers an even more advanced protocol, the Keto Plant Paradox Intensive Care Program. This intensive version combines all the lectin avoidance principles with a strict ketogenic diet approach, which fundamentally shifts your body's primary fuel source from glucose sugar to fat-derived molecules called ketones. Ketones provide an incredibly clean, efficient source of cellular energy that can actually bypass many damaged metabolic pathways, effectively starving cancer cells, which are heavily dependent on glucose, while simultaneously providing abundant, clean fuel for energy-starved brain cells. The journey through the plant paradox is admittedly a radical one. It fundamentally asks you to question absolutely everything you've been taught and told about nutrition your entire life. It reveals a hidden world of ongoing biological conflict and sophisticated chemical warfare happening inside your body every single moment. But it also offers a remarkably clear, scientifically logical, and genuinely empowering roadmap back to vibrant health. It's not about summoning superhuman willpower or embracing deprivation and suffering. It's about finally understanding the actual rules of the game and strategically changing them in your favor. It's about ending the war once and for all, and finally making lasting peace with your food, with your body, and ultimately with your health. As we wrap up our deep dive through the plant paradox, it's definitely worth taking a moment to reflect on the sheer audacity and scale of the idea Dr. Gundry presents. This isn't just suggesting you tweak your macros or swap out a few ingredients. It's proposing a fundamental, paradigm-shifting change in how we perceive the entire natural world around us. The concept that plants, these gorgeous, seemingly passive organisms just sitting there looking pretty, are actually actively engaged in a sophisticated, multi-million-year war for survival, is both genuinely humbling and strangely empowering. It provides us with a legitimate reason, a powerful why, behind so many of our frustrating modern health struggles. It suggests that maybe we're not weak-willed or undisciplined failures. Maybe we've just been unwittingly caught in the biological crossfire of an ancient conflict we didn't even know existed. The most profound paradigm-shifting lesson from this entire book, at least for me personally, is that first foundational rule: what you stop eating is genuinely more important than what you start eating. In a world that's constantly, aggressively trying to sell us the next miracle superfood, the next expensive supplement, the next magic bullet solution, this idea feels genuinely revolutionary. It suggests that reclaiming health isn't about frantically adding more things to an already overloaded system. It's about thoughtfully removing the specific things that are actively causing harm. It's about creating a clean, supportive internal environment where our body's own innate, powerful ability to heal itself can finally take over and do its job. We waste so much mental energy and money searching for the perfect things to add in, when the real secret might simply be to stop putting in the wrong things in the first place. And this naturally leads to the second powerful takeaway: the empowering concept of personal responsibility through knowledge. This book isn't handing you a rigid list of commandments to follow blindly without question. It's providing you with a genuine education. Once you truly understand why that innocent-looking tomato might actually be triggering your chronic joint pain, or why that supposedly wholesome whole wheat bread might be contributing to your persistent brain fog, you're no longer just a passive, helpless victim of mysterious symptoms. You transform into an active, informed participant in your own health journey. You gain the knowledge and tools to run your own carefully controlled experiments, to really listen to and interpret the signals from your own unique body, and to discover what genuinely works for you personally. It fundamentally puts the power and control back squarely in your own hands, where it belongs. So how can you realistically start applying these ideas today, right now, without feeling completely overwhelmed? Here are a few simple, practical action steps you can take immediately. First, just for one single week, commit to trying a straightforward experiment. Pick just one major lectin-containing food group from the Just Say No list and remove it completely from your diet. Maybe it's all grains, so you give up bread, pasta, cereal, and rice. Maybe it's nightshades, so you consciously avoid tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, and eggplants. Don't try to change everything else in your life. Just remove that one specific thing for 7 full days and pay very close, honest attention to how you actually feel. Notice your energy levels throughout the day. Observe your digestion. Monitor any aches, pains, or inflammation. Track your mental clarity and mood. It's a genuinely low-stakes way to see if there's a real, tangible connection for your specific body. You might be genuinely surprised by what you discover about yourself. Second, become a dedicated ingredient label detective. The very next time you're walking through the grocery store, pick up a few of your regular go-to healthy packaged foods. Maybe it's that protein bar you love, those gluten-free crackers, or your favorite salad dressing. Actually read the ingredients list carefully, beyond just the front-of-package marketing. Look specifically for hidden sources of lectins, like corn derivatives, soy lecithin, sunflower seeds, or peanut flour. Look for those disruptors we talked about, like added sugars, artificial sweeteners, and inflammatory seed oils. Just becoming genuinely aware of what's really hiding in your supposedly healthy food is honestly a huge, empowering first step toward change. And third, make just one small, meaningful upgrade specifically for your gut buddies. Maybe it's adding one whole avocado to your daily routine. Maybe it's finally swapping out your usual refined cooking oil for high-quality extra virgin olive oil. Or maybe it's simply committing to eating one big, dark, leafy green salad loaded with vegetables every single day without fail. Think of it as leaving a daily thank you gift for the trillions of microscopic helpers working tirelessly on your behalf inside your gut. In the end, the plant paradox is so much more than just another book about food and diet. It's fundamentally a story about learning to see the world, and your place in it, with completely new eyes. It reminds us, sometimes uncomfortably, that we are not separate from or superior to nature, but deeply, intricately, inescapably connected to every aspect of it. And by genuinely understanding that connection, both the conflict and the potential harmony, we can learn to navigate it with real wisdom and intention. And in doing so, we can actively reclaim the vibrant, energetic health that is genuinely our birthright, not some impossible fantasy. That was an in-depth summary of the plant paradox by Dr. Stephen R. Gundry. We've explored and unpacked the main ideas and strategies today. But I have to be completely honest with you about something important. A summary, no matter how thorough, is ultimately like looking at a detailed map of a beautiful, exotic country. It shows you the general layout, points out the key cities and landmarks, and traces the main roads connecting them, but it can absolutely never replace the actual experience of walking those streets yourself, breathing in that air, tasting that food, and meeting those people face to face. The real magic and transformation of a book like this genuinely happens when you sit down and read it for yourself, cover to cover. It's in those quiet, personal moments, when a specific story, or even just a simple phrase, connects deeply with your own life experience in a way you never expected or could have predicted. This summary is simply a tool, a starting point, to help you decide if this particular journey is one you want to commit to taking. If anything we've discussed and explored today has genuinely sparked your curiosity or resonated with a health struggle you're personally facing, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy of the actual book. Reading it isn't just about passively gaining information and facts. It's an active experience that can genuinely change the way you see your plate, understand your health, and ultimately live your life. The link to get the book is right there in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, insightful, or it gave you even just one new perspective to consider, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you definitely won't miss our next deep dive into another potentially life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's continue to learn, grow, and level up together.